Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the tier list that MUTEACE recently made on how easy it is to win in Smash Ultimate. Now that video will be down below. I highly recommend you watch it because it is a banger, as well as MUTEACE is just correct on most of the things in this video. So in today's video we're just going to be going over the few things that I do disagree with, as well as the reason behind some of the placements. So as you can see, we have a lot of tiers here, so we're just going to be going from top to bottom, starting with the easiest characters and then working our way down. Starting off in the win tier, these are just the 4 characters that are the easiest characters in the game to find great success with, because not only are they ridiculously broken, they all have incredible X factors, incredible win conditions, broken neutral game, really strong advantage state. Kazi has a little bit of a weak disadvantage state, and these guys all do have some weaknesses, like, oh, Steve, he's a little bit slow, Rob, he's a little bit big, Game & Watch, he's light, but the weaknesses are so easily nullified that you can just kind of play your own kind of game. And I do agree that these are your top 4 easiest characters in the game. There are some characters that are maybe like not as good that you can slide into here, but they aren't going to find you the success. If you want to win in this game and you want to like do super well in tournaments, you're probably going to be picking one of these 4. Next up, we have the win but not as crazy tier, and the biggest outlier here is obviously going to be Luigi, but Luigi still has an incredibly effective and simple game plan in grab. Grab is ridiculous for Luigi, everyone knows it at this point. The difference though is going to be that you can play around Luigi super good, and that's why, again, this tier list isn't a tier list of how good characters are, it's how easy characters are to win with. With Luigi, you get that grab, you win. You get a nair, you win. You have a frame one out, you get a forward air off stage, you win. There's so many ways that Luigi can win, but there's also ways where he can be exploited super hard. Then you have characters like Min Min, where you can be exploited with Min Min, but you have arms in neutral, which is just like ridiculous. I don't really have to explain that. You have Mithra as well. Mithra just has her entire kit, one of the best whiff punish characters in the game, and it's really hard to play around Mithra because she has such amazing whiff punishing, but she also has amazing pressure. So where do you find your openings? Because she's pressuring you, a lot of time you can't really punish that. You go to punish her, she just runs away and dash attacks you because her dash attack is massive and she's incredibly quick, so it's really difficult to deal with. And then you have Pyra as well, who just has some pretty good kill confirms and can kill you. You have Samus, who has charge shot, which is kind of where that discussion has to end. You have Terry. Terry is so broken. I'm glad someone's finally recognizing how ridiculous Terry is. This character is so insane. You hit a down tilt, they're taking 40%. You hit a jab, they're taking 40%. You hit an up tilt, they're taking 40%. You're hitting a grab, 40%. Every single time Terry hits you, it's 40%, and then he gets go meter, and you're dying at 80. So he needs to win neutral once or twice. He's pretty fast. He has a decent projectile. It's not like amazing, but just having a projectile in FGC character is pretty good, especially when it's not like a Kazuya laser or a Ken fireball. You also have very good mobility in the air just because of how much access you have to so many specials. Like, it's not going to be amazing, there's characters that are better, but at least compared to the other FGC characters, he has a ton of mix-ups in the air that make him really ambiguous. Then you just have infinite go meter. You don't even have to get people to 80 at this point. You could just get people to 40 and kill them again, off like a down tilt, off an F tilt. There's so many ways this character can kill you. Off a nair, he can spike you. He has grab confirms. It's insane how good Terry is. Every single thing that this character does is correct, and he could combo with. It's unreal. He's broken. I'm not going to rant about it anymore. You have Sonic as well. Sonic, really, really strong. Now, I'd say the hardest part about Sonic is just going to be the mindset that you're going to need to him. You're going to need to be patient with this character. You're going to need to have that discipline to be camping, because if you're not camping, you're not going to have as much success. Now, Sonic is still really good, so you can still run people down, but at the super top level, obviously, you're going to be wanting to camp more. But for Sonic, a lot of his stuff you just can't really punish against a lot of the cast. Most of the cast can't really deal with spin dash super well. They just kind of have to hold that, wait for him to make a critical error somewhere else, use stage control against Sonic. The most important thing against Sonic is going to be stage control, because spin dash is going to be ridiculous. You're probably not going to be able to punish it. You kind of have to punish after spin dash the decision that he makes, because he's probably going to be on the ledge there if you're playing your cards right. So that's how you kind of deal with Sonic, but this character's game plan is just super strong. And then Pac-Man. Now, Pac-Man's a character that when most people see, it's like, oh, but Pac-Man has so many combos that are really difficult. Like, there's so many intricate setups that you need to know, but also outside of those intricate setups, you just hydrant, you have your nair, you have your forward air, your boxing tools are ridiculous, you have Bell, which is insane, you have the best grab in the game. He just has so many strong attributes about him that kind of glue the character together as a whole. And I want to talk about glue, because that's the expression that MUTEACE used a lot in his video, and let's just do that right now. So what does MUTEACE mean by glue? And what I think he means by glue is going to be the thing that holds the character's game plan together. I think a great example of this is going to be Link. Link's glue is going to be his nair, because against a lot of characters, you're going to be wanting to use nair because it's going to allow you for setups. You can get nair into Z-drop combos, you can get a ton of stuff with it. It's also just a broken move. It's for edge guarding, it's for killing. That is going to be Link's glue, and certain characters have really strong glue. You look at Steve, minecart's ridiculous, up tilt's ridiculous, forward air is ridiculous. I mean, everything about Steve is kind of ridiculous, so every single thing about him has a lot of glue to it, which makes his game plan insanely solid. You look at Game Watch, he has the glue of Up B, he has the glue of Nair, and the better characters are going to be the characters that their glue works against more of the cast. There are certain characters that you have to know a ton of specific setups that are really intricate, so your glue isn't going to be as strong because you have to be changing up from matchup to matchup, but characters that have stronger glue are going to allow you to play some matchups more similar than others just because your glue is so strong that it allows you to just kind of overpass the little intricacies of things that the harder characters kind of have to worry about. Next up, we have the win with slight effort tier, and I also think this tier really well shows the glue analogy, starting off with Snake. Now, Snake is a broken character. Every single day that goes by, I think Snake's getting better and better, and the correct option for Snake, I'd say 90% of the time, is going to be pulling Grenade. In neutral, advantage state, disadvantage state, whether it's to get out of it, whether it's to keep applying pressure, there's so many times where the correct decision for Snake is just to pull Grenade, and this is against pretty much the entirety of the cast. There's also Pikachu. The correct decision, just use T-Jill because it's broken, it's an amazing approaching tool, and you have no disadvantage with that character as well, and that's when you come against characters like Game & Watch and Ness that both Pikachu and Snake struggle with because their glue does not work anymore. So I think that's a great way to show that. You also have Shulk, who just has Monado Arts, and Monado Arts are just cheating. Joker was initially a character that I disagree with. I thought Joker should be in the hard tier, but Gun is, again, just kind of the correct choice in a lot of neutral situations, as well as Arsene being broken, as well as Hurtbox shifting being broken. The fact that Joker just gets like 30%, or probably even more than 30% smaller when he's running at you is ridiculous. You have Cloud as well, just an incredibly solid neutral game plan. I think the only argument that you can make for Cloud to be moved a little bit down would be the fact that his recovery is linear. You have to look out for that. But a character having a flaw doesn't necessarily make them harder. It just makes them worse, which is another thing that MUTEACE harped on a lot in the video, which again, I think is really good. I think he uses this a lot versus Palutena. It's like, yes, it's really hard to secure kills sometimes because your neutral game plan is linear, but that isn't the character being hard. That's just the character being bad, because then the hardest character in the game is Ganon, because I don't know how you win a major with Ganon. Spoilers, you don't. And then finally, you have Young Link as well, who honestly, I think you can move up. I think Young Link is ridiculous. The fact that all of his projectiles are going to be comboing into things that can kill you is just insane to me. Next up, we have the bracket randoms here, and these are just going to be the polarizing characters. You have Jigglypuff and K-Rool here. Now, I think K-Rool's in here for the same reason of Jigglypuff, and that's going to be the edge guarding. Now, Jigglypuff's definitely in here for the edge guarding because there are certain characters that Puff can edge guard against super hard and find a ton of success, and there are certain characters that just have good recoveries, and Jigglypuff is going to struggle against. I think it's the same thing versus K-Rool, specifically versus sword characters, because K-Rool Nair just destroy sword characters because the armor, it hits them once, they get clipped, they don't have a jump, they are dead at like 30, and then K-Rool, he's fine, he'll take the trade as well. A lot of the time, you can't even beat the armor, so that's something that's super great. But again, if characters aren't really struggling in the recovery aspect, just have better neutral, and spoilers, you're probably going to have better neutral than Puff and K-Rool. If that's not really where those characters' strong suits are, then you're going to get absolutely whopped. And that's also kind of the same thing with Incineroar and Ices. The neutral game isn't as strong for Incineroar, though. He's killing you in 2 to 3 hits, and he's killing you in 1 hit with Revenge. And then for Ices, they just have such good option coverage, especially like things like Squall Hammer. This isn't even something that you have to desync for. You just throw out Squall Hammer, and a lot of time your opponent either has to hold that or take 20%, and a lot of times also not punishable because you can drift away with it. So it's a really difficult thing to deal with, and they also have freeze, they have like just aerials with desync, so a lot of the time what an ice climber player will do, they don't really care what you're doing, they're just going to cover a ton of options. They'll cover shield with a grab, they'll cover jump with like a forward air, maybe they'll cover a roll away with something. There's so many times where an ice climber player can just put so much pressure on you, and there's not much you can do with it, but then you could also just play Min Min, and then Min Min just destroys Nana, and you get rolled, or you can play Sonic, and then Sonic just runs away from Incineroar, and there's nothing he can do about that. That's why these characters are incredibly polarizing. Sometimes you're going to be like up in this win tier, you're just going to win, and then sometimes you're just going to be in the no tier and have no chance. Also, Hero was in this tier, and I just forgot to add him, but I think Hero is ridiculous, by the way. I think this is one of the most underrated characters in the game, but the matchups that he's going to be doing well in are the matchups where he's going to be able to get his spells, and then the ones that he's not going to be doing well in are going to be the matchups that don't allow him to get spells. So that's characters with oppressive projectiles, characters that are just really quick, but Hero with spells, specifically the buffs, is a ridiculous character. Like, he is so good, and everything else about him is fine as well. You know, the sword's a little bit slow, but it hits heavy. He has some pretty strong neutral specials, as well as the spells that he can get just from down B and general, like not the buffs, most of them are pretty good, and most of them are applying safe pressure. So I think Hero is a really strong character, but sometimes he just gets run over super hard. Next up, we have the normal tier, and there's no real characters that I think should be moved up or down from here. I think maybe I would move Link to hard just because the character on TAS is really difficult, but no one's playing Link with TAS anyway. They're just kind of spamming Nair, so most of the time he's going to be in normal tier. Maybe same thing with Sora as well. A lot of the time Sora combos can be difficult, but then you're just kind of spamming spells under a platform and you can get away with it because it's most of the time the correct option. Then you have the no tier as well. These are characters that are just not worth it, at least in his opinion. I still think Chrom is underrated. I still think Chrom has used their characters with worse recoveries than Chrom that are rated higher than him. Chrom's neutral is ridiculous, but the fact that essentially every single character in the game can edge guard him is a huge flaw that makes him incredibly inconsistent. Like, if you're maining Chrom in bracket, you're going to have a ton of troubles, but I think he has some use as a secondary. Next up, we have the hard tier, and there aren't any characters that I would move into the hard tier, except maybe still Pikachu. I think Pikachu is a fairly difficult character, and even though we talked about the glue of Teejal, a lot of the time in Pikachu, if you're not hitting your zero death combos, which are very precise, you're going to have to be making 50-50s, and that's pretty difficult to do because you just have to know flowcharts and stuff for basically every character because of how important the edge guarding is, but also Teejal is still ridiculous, so we'll keep him out of there. And then I would maybe move Meta Knight out just for the reason of his combo starters are dash attack and grab, and then like maybe like a down air or something, but a lot of the time you're just going to be fishing for those, and once you get them you're going to be farming. But there's also a ton of different DI routes, there's a ton of different things for every single character that are very intricate, so I'll let him stay in there as well. And our first one that's definitely going to be in here is Bayonetta. Bayonetta is ridiculously hard. You could teach a college course on Bayonetta combos on just Kirby, and then you could teach one on DDD. You could teach so many things about Bayonetta. There's so many little scenarios. Her movement is also pretty difficult. It's insane how much you need to know with Bayonetta. Now, I feel like I've poorly explained Mega Man, so I'm just going to do it right here. The hard thing about Mega Man is his movement. Mega Man's movement is ridiculously difficult. You just kind of have to be weaving in and out, and a lot of the time, you're just slowly whittling away at people with pellets until you can get your big opening. You need to know how to get that big opening, and once you get it, you need to convert super, super hard. Like, that's going to be like your Metal Blade combos into up tilt. If you are not able to get that, you're going to be struggling a ton with this character. That's also one of the reasons that he's so cool, is because his movement is so intricate, but just thought I should add that. You have Zero Suit. Zero Suit, her neutral game is really, really good, but she's not getting a ton per every hit, except sometimes she'll hit you for like 50. Sometimes Zero Suit will explode you. Majority of the time, that's not going to be the case. It's really hard for her to get the kills. She has to be precise. She can be blown up. She's a fairly light character, so I think her being there is fine. Pichu as well. Now, the reason that Pichu is here and Pikachu is not here is because obviously the fact that he damages himself, but they both have T-Jolt, which Pikachu T-Jolt is really, really good. Pichu T-Jolt, I think, is arguably better, but the fact that it hurts you means every single time that you are not hitting a T-Jolt with Pichu, you lost that interaction. So you can't really just throw it out because people will just shield it, they'll take it, and then that's like 1/50th of your stock gone, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you think about how many times Pichu players are going to be using T-Jolt, or just how many times Pikachu players are using T-Jolt in neutral, it is actually insane, and you just can't afford to do that on the character. Diddy Kong as well, a lot of very intricate setups. Your neutral game has to be very smart. It's also the usage of Monkey Flip. I feel like there are certain characters that have these really broken tools, and what makes them hard is like not using these broken tools every single time. I think Monkey Flip is one of those examples. Knowing how to use Monkey Flip is crucial. If you're not using that move correctly, you are going to get absolutely blown up, as well as, again, just a lot of different setups. Duck Hunt, you need to know so many stuff with Duck Hunt, but he doesn't have the bonus of Pac-Man. Pac-Man, you need to know a lot of setups, but then Pac-Man has the best grab in the game, and he has Hydra, and he has Nair. Duck Hunt has pretty much nothing, so that character also deserves to be there. Sephiroth, your spacing needs to be on point. Also, another character that I think you could argue being moved up here is Marth, because it's the same thing as Sephiroth. Your spacing needs to be on point. You're going to get no value, but Sephiroth is just much more committal. A lot of his stuff is just harder to hit. Well, maybe not harder to hit, but it is just slower, and it does hit a little bit harder, admittedly, but if you're going to be missing it, you're going to get punished a lot more. Wario as well. Wario, same thing. A lot of very intricate combo routes. You need to know a ton about your character, but he also struggles a lot without Waft. Now, playing into Waft, you could argue that that's the glue. Wario's glue is Waft, but if he doesn't have Waft, and for 2 minutes of the game, a minute of the game, he's not going to have Waft. That's like a one stock thing, so you have your glue for one stock, but for the other 2 stocks, you have to find a way, which can be difficult. I mean, Sheik, I feel like I don't have to explain, it's Sheik, she's hard, and then you have Fox as well, and I've seen some people think Fox is easy. Again, this is at the top level. This is through MUTEACE's brain, so he's going to be thinking the best of the best. Fox at the top level is extremely difficult. Same thing, you have to be precise with your combos. Everyone knows how you're going to kill. You have like 4 options. Everyone knows how you're going to get them. You have to understand, how do I get these? How do I be ambiguous about this? That's why Light is so great, because his corner pressure is ridiculous, as well as his defensive play is really, really strong. He'll bait you out. He doesn't overextend super hard, and Fox is a character that a lot of people want to overextend because you have things like dash attack. You have broken neutral options, but you have to play smart with this character or you're just going to get blown up. We also have the not worth it tier for Rosalina, and the reason that she's in this one by herself, I mean, it says right in the title, the character is just not worth it. The amount of work that you are putting into it is not the amount of work that you are receiving. And the hard characters, when you're putting in work with these characters, you know, you're getting a lot. Bayonetta, if she hits you the right way, she can kill you at 0. Rosalina, she might get 30. It is just not worth the amount of work that you have to put in. And then we finally have the Peach here, and MUTEACE says Peach is the hardest character in the game, and I agree with him 1000%. This character is ridiculous. It's the same thing. Need to know a lot of very intricate setups against a lot of very intricate different characters, but Peach is incredibly slow, so her neutral game isn't great. Now she has float. Now it's really good again, because you can do whiff punishing. You can do pixel perfect whiff punishing. No one else like Peach in the game could do that, but yet the amount of thoughts every single time anyone's doing anything in neutral, the Peach player has to consider that. They have to consider how far away they are. Can they whiff punish that? What can they whiff punish it with? What's their best combo? And then they have to know these crazy combos. Peach combos aren't easy either. There's so many things about Peach that are just incredibly difficult, and I have to agree that the character's the hardest in the game. And we'll do a quick summary before we wrap it up. And this list is essentially just the amount of effort that you're putting in versus the amount of reward that you get. It's not how hard it is to win with a character necessarily, because then Ganon would be the hardest character in the game because he's the worst character in the game. He loses basically every single matchup. These characters at the win tier, if you're putting in 100% effort, you're getting like 200% effort back. If you're putting in 100% effort with these hard characters, you're getting that exact effort back, maybe even a little bit less because of how difficult they are. And that's basically just the summary of it. Some characters are easier than others. Just because a character is easier does not make them necessarily better in bracket. Again, another example of that, Luigi. I think Luigi's a pretty easy character. Is he super good in bracket? No, not necessarily. He's pretty much mid. And then you look here, Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt's a really, really hard character. Does that mean you're going to get a ton of reward because he's hard? No, not necessarily. But if you want to win in Smash Ultimate, you're going to be probably leaning towards these top tier characters. You'll also notice that most of these characters are amazing secondaries and dual mains. I think there's a couple characters in the normal tier as well that in a secondary standpoint, you can move up to the win tier. I think Lucina as a secondary, that is just a win. I mean, you've seen what Proto Bonham has been able to do to people, but I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I highly implore you watch MUTEACE's video, because not only is it really, really good, it's also just better because he's like 30,000 times better than me. He's able to explain his thoughts much better than I can. So again, I'd highly recommend you watch that. It's a really good video, but I think this list is super interesting. It's a really cool way to look at the game, and I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sport's been absolutely unreal lately, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.